Pacers lose to the 76ers, which means it is official. They will have the best possible odds in the draft lottery. How did they lose? Is there anything left that matters in the standings? I'll break it all down today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday/weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today the Pacers lose to the 76ers. That is 62 losses, which means it is official. The Pacers will finish the season with an outright bottom three record. They have secured the best possible odds for the draft lottery. That is 1 month from the date of their game against the Sixers. I'll talk about what those odds are a little bit. I will talk about if there's any considerations for the Pacers in their final game, what teams around them might be rooting for, all the craziness of Friday night, and of course the game. Why did the Pacers lose? Who actually popped? Did anything of lasting value come out of the spoiler alert? Taylor Peters' best half in a minute happened in the first half of this game. Normally, the leading story is the basketball. This time, it is the end of the standings watch that has been happening since the All-Star break. Many of you listen every day know that I have said all season, tanking is just something you feel. And there are more layers than that, to it than that, but you can see a team, especially if you watch them all the time, and know when the motivations are different. And I went to D.C. in February, and I sat after those games. After both of them, you could just tell and feel that it was different. And since then, the Pacers, as they should have, after the Ivica Zubac trade that they made, to make that trade potentially as beneficial as possible for the franchise, the best possible decision was to maximize their lottery odds and develop what they could lineup-wise and player-wise along the way. Lo and behold, they lost 16 in a row, which gave themselves enough wiggle room to win a few more. By that, I mean 4 games in the last couple weeks and still lock up a bottom 3 record for the draft lottery odds. So if you have not been paying attention, if this is your first time listening to anything about this subject, if you don't get it, well, here we go. The way the lottery works this year, this is going to change next year. Adam Silver said many times, but it will not be changing this year. The way the lottery works is the bottom, the 3 teams with the worst record in the league all have the exact same odds to get a top 4 pick and to get every pick within the top 4 specifically. What that means is it's a 14% chance for the number 1 pick, 13.4 for number 2, 12.7 for number 3, and 12 for number 4. That adds up to 52.1%. And that is, again, true of all 3 teams that finish with a bottom 3 record. So going into Friday, the Pacers had 19 wins, and both the Jazz and Kings had 21. So if the Pacers won out and those 2 teams lost out, the Pacers would have tied them for the 4th and 5th worst record, and their odds would have been worse than 52.1%. But incredibly, the Pacers lost, meaning they couldn't catch the Jazz or Kings anyway, and then the Jazz beat the Grizzlies in just a game of comedy. And then the Kings beat the Warriors. Why the Kings keep doing this to themselves, I never know. So the Pacers actually could have won on Friday night and still ended the day with the top lottery odds. The Nets are a team that is a factor a little bit, but not for odds purposes. The Nets will be thrilled to see that the Kings and Jazz both won. But that's how the Pacers did it, is they lost, but they didn't even have to lose in the end anyway. They have secured a bottom 3 record, which means what I said is true, a 52.1% chance to keep their pick in the upcoming draft lottery. That's as good as it can possibly get. So here's what is at stake now. They play the Pistons on Sunday. Detroit has locked up the number 1 seed in the East. They have nothing to play for there. With 59 wins, they cannot catch the Spurs or Thunder in the West. The next team in the West is 53-win Nuggets. So there's not even a team in the West that they can say, oh, we're trying to get home court if we play whoever. They have nothing to play for. Absolutely zeros on the table for the Detroit Pistons, unless they're so desperate to win 60 games. So the only thing on Sunday at stake in Indy is actually regarding the Brooklyn Nets, because the Pacers lottery situation is they keep the pick if it's top 4, and those picks are drawn. If they don't land in the top 4, it goes to the Clippers, and those picks, you can end up tied. if you have the same record as a team and neither team jumps into the top 4, they're technically tied in the draft order. So a coin flip determines which team will end up above or below the other one in the case that happens. The Pacers don't care because for the coin flip to matter to them, they would have to not move up in the lottery anyway. So they don't really care about this. But what is a little bit at stake standings-wise for the Pacers on Sunday is if they win against the Pistons and the Brooklyn Nets, who have 20 wins, lose against the Toronto Raptors, both those teams would end the season with 20 wins. And then the Nets, if they would win a coin flip, the Nets' floor would be lower. That would mean the Nets could only fall as far as 6, while the Pacers could fall to 7. But the Pacers' odds don't change. That doesn't matter to them. It's just their floor could change. The Memphis Grizzlies, who own the Pacers' second-round pick, would care. So the way the coin flip works is whoever wins it in the first round loses it in the second round. So the Clippers would care about the coin flip, the Nets would care about the coin flip, and the Grizzlies would, but the Pacers don't. So there is still a small bit of bottom 3 tankery to go on, is that the Nets would like to lose on Sunday and hope the Pacers win, but the Pacers specifically do not care about their game, right? Their hope is, and I asked Lloyd Pierce after the game, right? You guys, this season has been rough. Does it give you any solace to have the top lottery odds? And he's never going to be like, yeah, it's so great we lost 62 times. But he did say that his priority and the teams in these final games is health, right? And being cognizant of that. And I think that's true. And I think that is the main objective of Pacers Pistons. The result does not matter. It's everybody get through the game healthy. Nobody get hurt, especially nobody get hurt in anything that would matter into the summer or anything of that nature, right? Even if it's a short-term injury, right? You're inclined to say it doesn't matter, they'll be back for next season, but like everybody's rehab plan, off-season plan and development plan, like the earlier you can start, the better. So nobody getting hurt should be goal number 1. If they happen to win, whatever, if they lose, whatever, it doesn't actually matter at all if the Pacers win or lose against the Detroit Pistons on Sunday. I'll admit this, if you are interested in pettiness, winning the game and then falling to 7, pretending that the Clippers get the 7th pick after the draft lottery, right? In theory, that like slightly reduces the chance that the trade looks better or worse in future years, right? Because the Clippers would be getting, that's the worst possible pick the Pacers could end up with, is 7, right? So in theory, that changes how the perception of the trade looks, but I don't think the Pacers care about the perception. They already made the trade, right? They don't care about that now. They care about, if they can, keeping the pick. I remember, if you read my story, right after the trade, I asked Chad Buchanan in Barclays Center, I said, but you made this trade. What else do you think this team needs to add, if anything, now before next season? And he joked at the beginning, but he laughed. He said a top 4 pick would be nice, right? Clearly, there's value to the team in doing so. The way they acted since then is, frankly, what they should have done. And now they've done it. They have the top possible odds. I've over-explained this to some extent, but Pacers Pistons doesn't matter at all. It changes nothing. It changes nothing if the Nets catch them in the inverse standings. Doesn't matter at all. The Pacers odds will be exactly the same. And where they land in the first round or second round, does the Grizzlies get picked 32 or 33? What are the Clippers rooting for? That's all that's at stake, is other teams, Nets, Grizzlies, and Clippers motivations, not the Pacers. So that is what came out of this game. And it's just hilarious that the Jazz and Kings also won on the same day to really make it happen. So that's it. The standings watch is over. After weeks of tracking this, the Pacers are huge fans of the Sacramento Kings. The Kings winning 7 or 8 games since the start of March made this very easy for them to like be able to actually put their pedal or their foot on the gas a few times in these games and win a few games and be like, see, it is possible for the healthy Pacers to still be good. I think was a little bit meaningful for a lot of the players and, quite frankly, a lot of people who wanted the team to win every game. But that's the end of standings watch. You don't have to do that anymore. So Pacers, Pistons, we'll see what the Pacers opt to do. Look, let's be clear. The guys they've been sitting out in these recent games, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, obviously Zubats and Haliburton are hurt. No point of putting them on the floor. None, right? Them getting maybe for like a quarter. There's not even a 65 game threshold to hit for anybody. Like go wave to the fans, score a basket. That's it, right? Even Obi Toppin, who had a better reason than the rest of these guys to go out there and get back into game shape and trust his body going into the summer. And, noble that he did that and played quite well this week, obviously. Same thing. First half, get it over with. But everybody should be anyone with major consequence next season should not play much on Sunday. Let everybody else who's fighting for minutes, money, whatever, roster spot, let them go crazy. If the Pacers win, very cool. Doesn't matter. If they lose, the Nets will be devastated. And that's that. So that is what the result of this game is and where the Pacers are headed. I will eventually write an explainer about this and do all the fun stuff where it's like, what's the average pick the Pacers get? What's the median pick the Pacers get? What should you actually be expecting? But I think most of you understand that it's been about a coin flip odds this whole time, and now it is secured at 2% better than a coin flip. Okay, what actually happened? How did the Pacers lose this game? They only scored 94 points. Their offense was not very good. How did that happen? Why did I think Taylor and Peter was so good? We'll get to the notebook. So much to get here coming up on Locked On Pacers. This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. Financial stress is something a lot of people are carrying right now. It's not just about the numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, and your overall mental health in ways that build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean you fail. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something many people think about, how easy it is to put pressure on yourself financially without even really talking about it. The stress that comes with trying to figure everything out on your own, the expectations you feel to have everything together, and how that pressure can spill into other areas of your life. Therapy isn't about financial advice. It's about working through the stress, the anxiety, and the emotions that come with it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need. When life gets overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make your second listen either Locked On Sixers to hear about them winning this game and their push to potentially make the playoffs. They need a lot of help, including they are rooting for a Nets win on Sunday to make the field without the plan, or Locked On Nets to hear about their side of a crazy day and the Nets after getting beat badly by the Pacers on Thursday, securing that they also will be in the top three. Wizards, Pacers, and Nets. You will hear a lot about those three teams with the lottery incoming. Okay, this game was interesting in that the Pacers actually were pretty competitive but played bad. The Sixers also played bad. The game starts, first possession. Walker tries to throw a pass in the post. Not a good pass. Sixers tip it out of bounds. Then he actually throws it out of bounds right after. First play of the game. Maxey turns a corner with a move. He gets right around Jarris Walker. He draws an N1. A Dembona rebounds between three Pacers players right into the basket. Basically, outside of the Pacers hitting threes, everything looked bad early, which is funny because you look up at the scoreboard, they're up 13-5. And I thought they were playing terrible. And I literally have a feeling this lead won't last since it's all from shooting. Sixers immediately went on a 15-5 run, took the lead right back, right? That was so obviously how this game was going to go. Cam Jones gets stripped easily on a drive. Jalen Slosson's tripping over the ball. All of the Pacers' first 4 turnovers were just hideous live ball things. Neither team could score, right? It was really interesting. The Pacers were doing all these terrible things, and they were still right in it. Outside of the Pacers' turnovers being higher with like 4 minutes left in the first half, every stat was pretty close. And so despite this dreadful start, the Pacers tied it at 64. And then the Sixers went on an 8-0 run. But the fact that this game was tied in the second half was shocking to me. But the Sixers just were like so set on playing this weird, non-aesthetically pleasing way. They ISO'd so much. And for Tyrese Maxey, that was great, right? He made 10 twos on 18 attempts. He took 10 free throws. He had 32 points. He was awesome. He could get by guys. He could get in the paint. He could cause problems. He's going to make an All-NBA team. VJ Edgecombe was kind of good at it. But everybody else stunk, and their passing was terrible. 17 assists for the Sixers in this game. The Pacers had 8 more in a loss, and they shot terrible from the field, right? The ball movement from Philly was really bad, and so they were like, that style will make it so you don't turn it over very much. They only had 8 turnovers, right? They cleaned up the offensive glass. Andre Drummond will talk about was a problem. That was their way to make sure their floor was decent in this game, but it made it so easy for the Pacers to keep up. That's not a way to generate a lot of threes, of which the Sixers only made 5. That's not a way, to have a potent offense when the ball movement's not there at all. And so the Pacers could keep up, even when they were playing completely terrible, right? And that's how this game looked close, despite the Pacers playing pretty bad. I would say the Pacers offense, 94 points, 21 turnovers, 37.5% from the field, 28% from 3. That's all bad. And yet they were in it like the whole game. Right, they were tied in the second half. That's how crummy the Sixers played. And yet the Pacers lost because of those things. Their offense could not overcome those things. I think travel back-to-back was hard. Obviously, the players they have available are up and down at times. They're losing a lot of shot creation at this point of the season. So who actually stood out, right? What were the things that made that game flow in which both teams stunk, favor the Pacers at times and not favor the Pacers at other times? To me, the standout performer after all this time, talking about Slosson being the Pacers' best two-way guy, of late, I actually ran into a fan at the game who joked about that because Slauson was not as good. In this game, he missed every shot he took. Talon Peter was great in this game. Talon Peter, his first touch or second touch was not good, right? He gets stripped by Kelly Oubre. He's dribbling too much. And I was like, oh boy, that was not a pretty moment from him. And then he, on the very next play, has it on the right wing. He just got stripped. He's dribbling with his head up backwards with a defender coming at him and just whips it a cross-court pass to Ethan Thompson. Gorgeous pass. And Ethan Thompson flips it to Quentin Jackson right next to him for an assist. So no stat registered for Talon Peter, but he created the basket. Like his pass created the basket. Then two or three possessions later, he's driving on the right side. He hits his defender with the shoulder, spins backwards. Justin Edwards trips just a tiny bit. He hits the midi. And then the next possession, he draws a 3-shot foul. What? Who is this guy? Who is this Talon Peter who's knocking defenders over and hitting challenging shots and throwing darts of passes? His stats don't even end the game that gaudy. He didn't actually make a 3. He made a very, very long 2 with his toe on the line. But he scored in the first half 9 points. He finishes with 9 points and assists as steal. And his defense had quite a few important moments. He's guarding Tyrese Maxey on a drive, stays right with him the whole way, and Maxey flips in a tough one. But I thought that was good defense, right? I talked a lot about his defense recently. He's guarding Paul George in the post. He's holding him up. And Paul George passed the ball, right? A lot of good stuff. He finishes a lob from Jalen Slauson. He drives baseline and flips the ball to Obi Toppin for a dunk on the drive. He just did a lot of stuff that I thought, wow, he looks, he's doing a lot of things. Like the variety, I suppose, is what stood out to me, is that his best moment, like Obi Toppin just destroyed the Nets 2 days ago, right? And a lot of his best moments were the same thing. Run to basket, score over short man, turn over short man, score, right? That's great that he could do that. It's great that he's capable of that, but it was a lot of the same thing. A lot of Talon Peter's big successes in this game came from different things: drive and pass, cross-court pass, drop a defender here, good defensive stop in different ways there. It was very impressive to see. It was one of his better games in a while, despite the stats being like, that's just kind of okay. I just talked about Jalen Slauson's game being not as great. He missed every shot he took. He did have 5 rebounds and 3 assists. His turnovers were really ugly. 2 awesome defensive plays. One, staying with VJ Edgecombe. He's backpedaling, and he was actually keeping up and staying in front of him. Impressive backpedal speed. And then, of course, the play everybody will remember, a chase down block on Paul George. Of all players, Paul George was like really having fun playing against Slauson and Quentin Jackson. They were both all chatting quite a bit during this game. Fun for those guys to get some respect from a former All-Star. But even in a game where Slauson is less effective than he's been in basically every game for a week and a half, he still had some standout plays that make you believe in what he could be as like a back-end bench guy at some point. 2 or 3 Sixers-related things. One, Andre Drummond. The classic, he's playing against the Pacers butt kicking. 9 rebounds on the defensive end. That was a Sixers high and only beaten by Micah Potter and Jay Huff, and 7 offensive rebounds. The Pacers had 10 as a team. He gave the Sixers so many extra possessions. In a relatively even free throw game, the Sixers took 16 more shots. Some of that, the huge turnover battle, some of that, the huge offensive rebound battle. And Drummond was a huge part of that. That's just what he does. He was plus 24. The only other Sixer above plus 15 was Maxey, who was also fantastic. Drummond has always been better against the Pacers than other teams because the Pacers struggle at rebounding, and Huff is tall, but not the best at banging in the post, and Potter is a little more physical, but is a little shorter. They just don't have a good matchup for a guy like Drummond, who's going to come in and get a bunch of boards. He wasn't even scoring that much. 4 for 10 is not very good. He took a corner 3 and missed it, which was goofy, but he just gives the Pacers such big problems. He had a nice power finish over Potter at one point, but then had a crazy drive on the next play. Absurd wedgie from Kelly Oubre on flicking in like a floater in the mid-range. I don't know if I've seen wedgies from that close happen, I guess a good amount, but it was just a weird shot to see a wedgie happen on. Oubre's defense was very pesky in this game. And Tyrese Maxey hit the longest shot I've ever seen go in a game. That was like an intentional shot attempt and not just like an after the buzzer nonsense shot or someone messing around during a stoppage. It was like half a second after the halftime buzzer. So it didn't count, and it's not the longest shot I've seen that counts in a game, but he hit like an 80-footer. It was awesome. It was one of those shots that was so cool that even the opposing crowd goes, oh, and goes crazy. It was awesome to see that, seeing someone intentionally try to do that. Thank you, New Heat Rules, for doing that. Okay, 3 little one-liners. actually 4 about the game, 3 on players. One is 3 times the Pacers were fouled on threes in this game. That actually helped them quite a bit to get to their 16 free throws. Taylor Peter had it once, and Ethan Thompson had it twice. Thompson, 4 for 10, couldn't buy a 3 and still had 15 points. His efficiency has been much better this week. He's finally hit a groove. That was one of my final 3 notes to get to, is like, he doesn't look so much better. I don't think he's like met the level that I kept saying that I thought he could after watching him in the G League, but he did have a couple better games down the stretch that make you at least understand why I thought it was possible. The Bulls game was obviously very, very impressive. I still think that seeing him in Summer League will be meaningful for the Pacers. He was good tonight in a lot of ways. Micah Potter, he's getting his double-double, man. If he's starting in these games, he's going to make it happen. 24 minutes on the nose, him and Huff splitting the time at center. 13 points, 10 rebounds for Micah Potter. His 4th double-double in like a week. I should have looked up his basketball reference page before I started yapping about that, but he's going to get it, man. Like, he's doing all he can to put the numbers on the board. Double-double against the Nets and the Cavs. So that is his 3rd double-double in the last 4 games. Micah Potter's going to make it happen. Last guy I want to talk about is Jarris Walker. Back up to the scoring front, at least. His return from injury games had been a little choppy in terms of basically everything. Turnover habits back. Wasn't really making shots, but in this one, 4 threes, and he goes 6 for 13 from the field, just 1 turnover on 17 points. He actually won his 29 minutes by 3. I thought he was much better, much more comfortable. I actually had a good time chatting with him post-game. I'll share the quotes on my social media feed. I thought he was really insightful about something Rick Carlisle said the prior game about, players are getting like unconditional minutes right now because of who's available. And that's such an important thing for growth. And Jarris Walker, one of the many guys who have taken advantage of that. I liked his perspective about what it's meant for him and how it could help him next season. And that is Pacers Sixers and the end of Standings Watch. The next podcast will be the last one about a game from this season. 81 down, 1 to go for the Pacers. So I'll see you guys after Sunday's game against the Pistons. You can find me on social media at Tony R. Reese and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Again, back Sunday night after Pacers Pistons. Till then, everybody have a wonderful day.